Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's session of the Berkeley Forum. My name is Aparna Iyer, and I'm currently the president. We're incredibly excited to welcome you to Adam Rippon at the Berkeley Forum. Before we begin, for our audience members, we encourage you to fill out the attendance form at tinyurl.com/ripponattendance and to submit questions that our moderator will read out at tinyurl.com/ripponquestions. Before we begin, the Berkeley Forum would like to take the time to acknowledge that our events and UC Berkeley's campus sit on the territory of the Ohlone people. It's important to us to recognize that we benefit and will continue to do so from the occupation of this land, and to acknowledge that the Muwekma people are still alive and present within the Bay Area and in Berkeley itself. For more Native education resources on campus, we encourage you to look to the Centers for Educational Justice and Community Engagement. And with that, it's my pleasure to invite up our event manager from the evening, who worked so hard to put all this together, Dustin Nguyen.
Hello. One of the world's most dramatic figure skaters, Adam Rippon, won the hearts of America and the world at the 2018 Winter Olympics. Known for his refreshing candor and wit, his rise to fame on the global stage has provided him a platform to speak out in support of LGBTQ+ rights and the freedom to be oneself. He has been named to the Time 100, Forbes 30 Under 30, AdWeek's 100 Most Creative, Out Magazine's Power 50, and Bleacher Report's Most Influential People in Sports Culture, among others. His memoir, Beautiful on the Outside, was published to rave reviews. He is currently working on a scripted comedy for NBC, among other projects. Without further ado, I will pass it to tonight's moderator, Lucy Chang, and our guest, Adam Rippon.
Thank you so much, Adam, for coming to speak with us tonight. We're so excited to have you join us.
Literally my pleasure.
Oh my goodness, thank you. So I just wanted to jump in and begin by asking you about your skating career. So in a previous interview, you actually mentioned not loving figure skating at first. What changed your mind and caused you to pursue it professionally?
So when I was really young, I'm from Pennsylvania, and I'm proud of it. And I would go skating in the wintertime, and it would be outside, and it would be like they would freeze this baseball field over. And every time I would go, I just imagined that I would be really, really good at it. And every time I went, I was obviously 7 years old and terrible. And so I would be there for like a few minutes before I would just beg for a hot chocolate and a soft pretzel, which I feel like I would do the same thing now as an adult. So I just didn't love it at first. And then when I got a little older, I was about like 10. I went to a friend's birthday party at a rink that was like an indoor rink, like a normal rink that you would train at. And I had a really good time. And I just kept asking my mom to go back to the rink and back to the rink again. And finally, as a birthday present, my mom signed me up for the group classes. And so then that's how I got started.
You mentioned starting at the age of 10, and that's relatively late in terms of Olympic level figure skaters usually retire by their mid-20s. Given the status quo of the sport, how did you navigate a seemingly abbreviated nature of your figure skating career?
I didn't really think about it. And I think that's like the best thing that I really did was that I just didn't think that I had started late. I didn't ever feel, of course, I'm lying. There were times where I felt like I was behind because there were kids who were younger than me and who were more advanced, but I didn't think that I couldn't get to their level. And I think that as we all get older, we can look around and we can see so many young people achieve things, which is amazing. But I think sometimes we like reflect and we think, oh God, like I'm this age, I'm older than they are, and they've done so much more. It's like too late. And I had moments like that within my skating career, especially when I was like in my later 20s. Because by the time I did go to the Olympics, I was already 28, which is, I was the oldest first time figure skating Olympian since the 1920s. So I wasn't around in the 1920s. That's a long time ago. So I just did my best not to focus on like what other people were doing or to like put my own career on a timeline, that I was open to having success when it would come.
Talking more about your success and your training, there you spent a significant portion of your adulthood training to become a professional ice skater. What sacrifices, if any, did you make as a young adult to pursue competitive ice skating?
It's interesting because I obviously did a lot of things that you wouldn't consider normal and missed out on a lot of different things that happen in one's life. But I really and still don't think of them as sacrifices because I really got to do something that I loved every single day. I got to do something that I loved for a job. So, I mean, there were a few things like when I was young, I started living with like different families and with like a coach when I was 13. So I wasn't living at home. One of the things I would do is like I would take the Greyhound bus from Scranton, where I'm from, go Joe Biden. And I would take the Greyhound from Scranton to Philly on Monday, and then I would take it from Philadelphia back to Scranton like on Friday night. So I just I was like a young kid. Like I just remember listening to like the radio on my earphones on a Greyhound bus. So I did a lot of things, but like it helped me grow up much faster. I felt very confident to travel on my own, especially going to competitions and doing all of that when I was young. So it's like not a typical way to grow up, but I do feel like I learned a lot and grew up fast because of it.
Within that topic of growing and learning, since you've retired, you've recently worked on recreating some of performances from your favorite Olympic programs from the past. What have you enjoyed most about learning new routines choreographed for other skaters?
One thing that I've really enjoyed, because I think for any athlete, I think, who does their sport for a while and then they retire from it, especially if they were professional, I think sometimes your relationship with the sport is so weird because I know for myself, when I was training, I loved going to the gym. Like being in the gym was like one of my favorite things. I just like could work out. It was like a way for me to like relieve stress. And then for maybe like 2 years, I was like, I would rather try to eat my shoes than go to a gym. And it was because like I didn't know how to like go to a gym and not train for the Olympics. Like it was 0 or 100. It wasn't like, why don't you just do something to be healthy? So it was really hard for me to kind of find my place on the ice again because I wasn't like training for anything. So I'd be there for like, 10 minutes and be like, okay, like what should I do next? And so I decided to like learn a few programs that I loved watching as like a young skater. And it was just really fun. Well, one, because I was a huge fan of those skaters that I could do the programs of, and now they're a lot of them are my friends. So it's been fun to do them and then kind of send them to them and share them and celebrate all of the things that they've done too.
And talking more about routines, in the past decade, skaters have more frequently used non-classical music. You yourself using Coldplay in your 2018 Olympic free skate. What, if anything, do you think has contributed to this shift within the ice skating community?
Well, I think a big thing was that I think it was in 2015, we were allowed to use lyrics, which I think in figure skating, we really had this kind of playbook of like the classics and learning, all of the ballets and the operas and knowing that music by heart. And I'm grateful that I know so much classical music and that it was skating that introduced me to so many of those pieces. One of my favorite artists is Chopin. I sound so freaking smart right now. But it was just that's what we grew up around, and it was like always listening and trying to find new music. And then when the rules changed, I'm really glad that they did, because it opened the door to skating to whatever you want. And I think it was a real opportunity for people to showcase who they were as people. Like what were they all about? What were their, like how, in skating, you have 4 minutes to really showcase who you are as an athlete. You have 4 minutes to show the world who you are. And when you can find a piece of music that really helps to do that, whether it has lyrics or not, I think that was the big shift. And I think the big shift is like self-expression. We want to know more about, the athletes that are competing. We want to know what are their interests, and in that limited amount of time, with now being able to skate to anything, we're able to really kind of see a little bit more through the door.
Yeah, and talking a little bit more about that self-expression aspect, how, if at all, has the change in music affected the types of routines that we see today?
I think that we really see a big push of a lot of dance being more integrated into figure skating. And there's definitely more crossover of professional dancers working with professional skaters in regards to getting ready and prepared for competitions. I think that I think it's been a really great thing, because in a sport that sometimes can feel so lonely, you're out there by yourself, all of the training you do alone. It's a chance for you to connect with people through that music. You have that opportunity to feel connected, and music does that on its own. And I think when you add movement to it in any capacity, it really helps us all just kind of connect or feel something.
Yeah, talking more about connections and shifting gears more towards your current endeavors, you've kind of endeavored in a lot of different things, such as writing a memoir, appearing on Dancing with the Stars, and continuing to advocate for LGBTQ plus youth with GLAAD. What, if anything, was your motivation in jumping into so many different pursuits?
I think one, when the Olympics were over, I really had this, I would say that when I left skating, it was way harder than I thought it would be. I was really lucky because there were a lot of different opportunities available. And one thing I did was I tried to take advantage of all of them, no matter what they were. Because I didn't, I was like faced with the question, at 28 years old, of like, what do I want to be when I grow up? Because I couldn't be, a figure skater forever. I can't compete forever. I mean, I could, it just wouldn't be good. Lucy, I'd be doing my best. It wouldn't be great. So I was kind of faced with this, like, what would I like to try next? So I tried to take advantage of every opportunity that was out there, and I gave each thing 100%. And I was just trying to find, like, what else am I good at? Am I good at anything else? And so I just really, really tried to find other things that I had an interest in. Of course, I always have loved making people laugh. And I've always used like comedy and humor as a coping mechanism. Hey, we got to cope, especially now. So I knew I liked something in that capacity. And I was really interested in all of those like different jobs that came up that kind of focused on that. And so I just kind of took it from there and slowly realized that like I could kind of do, as long as I had an open mind and was willing to do whatever, all of the lessons I learned as a professional athlete translated into everything. Everything, you just need to be able to work hard, focus, and relax, and just put your best foot forward. That's how you succeed at anything. And I learned that through sports. So it prepared me for like being, walking in and being like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I still don't know what I'm doing.
Me too. It's okay.
Thank you.
And talking about trying a lot of things and definitely like writing, creating content, etc. How does your creative process differ throughout all these ventures?
Well, it definitely differs when it's different people that you're working with, right? So in some capacities, some capacities, I don't even think that makes sense. In some like jobs that I've done, it's like I'll walk into, the space. Well, did walk. Now I would zoom into the space. And it would just be like, I would just have to, take charge, or they'd ask me a few of my ideas, or like, what did I want to do or something. And then there's some where it's like, I'm part of a team and it's more of a collaborative effort. And honestly, I was having a conversation with like a younger skater today. And like I said before, no matter what it was, everything that I like, all of the tools I got through being like a competitive and international figure skater, honestly been able to bring them into everything I do. If any of you have ever done a sport before, all of those like lessons apply. The team building, even if I'm a solo skater, there's still so many components to my team. So it's all my training mates, it's all my coaches, it's, you know, anyone that I would work with, it's part of my team. So it's being a good communicator and setting goals, and all of that has really helped me to be like really powerful in the workforce.
Oh, and you mentioned like learning a lot from skating and bringing in that like kind of sports mentality to what you do. Are there any lessons that you've learned from working behind the scenes or in your other endeavors, like your NBC show, your memoir, etc.?
The one thing that was really challenging was that like, you know, as an athlete, everything I did was to like physically exert myself. And if I wasn't physically exerting myself, it didn't feel like hard work. And it was the first time, of course, you know, when I was in school and stuff, it was like, you know, I was, you know, doing my homework and all of that. But, you know, when you're sitting down and you're doing like a writing project or something, it's a completely different feeling of exhaustion. Your body feels fine, but your mind is like on fire. So it was a completely different thing. And I had to like really recalibrate what and redefine what is hard work. Because I would feel badly that I was like, I can't think of anything, but I feel fine. So it was really recalibrating I had to go a little easier on myself. I'm a little nutty, if you can't tell.
Is there anything that you do to like de-stress in those situations where you feel like you're burnt out physically or mentally?
Honestly, so like I said before, I couldn't go to the gym for like, I would be there for 2 minutes and be like, I gotta get out of here. But the one thing that really helped me was to move. And it wasn't to like, you know, go bench 200, still can't do that. But it was just to go for an effing walk. And once I could move and just like get my body going, that was what like helped de-stress me. It's like my biggest piece of advice is just go for an effing walk.
I've been trying to do that, going to the park.
It's
Yeah.
just a little fresh air, no matter what. If it's freezing out, if it's hot out, just getting outside and moving around really like is still like my biggest like my trick. I love a good walk.
I'm curious because in ice skating, you probably do a lot of training inside and outside, and you mentioned going outside for walks. So how does that differ from training for shows like Dancing with the Stars and more like, I guess, like expression? Like, how does that differ in terms of, is that like also a physical, like a release for you, etc.? Yeah.
So, I mean, Dancing with the Stars was really interesting because it was almost like the best comparison I can think of is that like it was so foreign to me. I truly had like no idea what I was doing. And it was like, you know, you'd have to learn these dances and stuff. And one, it was like to memorize all the steps was like difficult. And two, the other thing was like I'd never moved with someone. It's always been like me on my own. I think my only advantage was that like I always competed in a costume and with music. But then other than that, like nothing was the same. It was really like, you know, if I had to like learn a full monologue in Japanese, I could like learn that full monologue, but I had no idea what I was saying, whether it was like I was saying it properly or not. And it really felt like that I was just like learning these like big chunks of something. And I was physically exhausted from like doing it a million times and mentally so fried from trying to remember all this stuff. I was a mess, but I was really skinny.
Oh my gosh. So in like Dancing with the Stars, like what was that training process like? Even though you mentioned you were skinny, like was that like was that like really, or was it like hard for you? What was that process like? Because you mentioned, you know, being like memorizing in different blocks. So was that different from ice skating?
It was totally different. And so you know, I was really excited to do Dancing with the Stars because I've had friends that have done it before. So like after the Olympics, like my friends Meryl and Charlie did it. My friend Allie Raisman had done it. So it felt like part of their like Olympic experience. And I was like, I would love to do that because it felt like a continuation of that like Olympic experience. And so I just felt really lucky. One, I had a great partner who became such a good and close friend of mine. Um, I was so lucky to have that great partnership. But so in this continuation of my whole Olympic experience, I was also like on tour with Stars on Ice. So I would like dance in the morning with Jenna, like an idiot, like having no idea what I was doing, for like 4 hours. So we would dance for 4 hours. So we would dance from like 6 till 10. Then I would get ready to go to the rink, and we would be at the rink getting ready for the show because we would have then show rehearsal every morning. And then we'd have the show. So I'd be at the rink at like 11 and we'd be there 11 until like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was like it was like I was completely useless. Still am, but
Yes.
but now I'm just not dancing.
Do you have like a favorite routine from that time?
My favorite routine was I got to dance to the same Coldplay song that I competed with at the Olympics. And so I just thought it was just a great way to kind of like bookend the whole experience of like it all started with this song, and it's like that whole Olympic feeling is like it can happen again. So it was that was my favorite one for
And then
sure.
do you have a favorite like skating performance?
Yes, of myself.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. I think my favorite one, so, now that I've retired, I can look back objectively and think about like the best performance I ever had. And so the best performance I've ever skated was at, we have these international competitions before we have like a nationals or world championships. And I was at this international competition in Paris, and it was the day after my birthday. And it was a few days after the 2016 election. So I was not in a great place. And I just felt like really I when we go to these events, we would room with people, and my roommate was just so great. And I remember just feeling like it grounded me. And I kind of like remembered what was really important to me in those moments. And I, could take the whole competition with a grain of salt. And I went out, and I think I had like, that is like the best performance I've ever had, is like at that one international competition in Paris. It was just, I think it was just like, I remember feeling so many things, and it being my birthday and the election and all of that. And it just like, I think it put me in a really good mindset to just stay in the zone.
Talking more about reflecting, your memoir, Beautiful on the Outside, describes your journey from Pennsylvania to the World's Olympic stage. What, if anything, encouraged you to write a memoir, and what was that process like?
I think I really wanted to write a book, and I know, it's like you write a memoir at like 29 years old. Hopefully you have more years left. I'm speaking to the universe. I'm going to live a long time. I'm very healthy. Uh, so I really wanted to write something because it was almost like therapy, because I could reflect on my whole skating career and all of the things that led me to those moments, and all of the ups and all of the downs. And also, I think for a lot of people, the Olympics was the first time that they got to meet me. So, they didn't know me when I was when I was like a self-proclaimed failure and was not on Olympic teams, and all of those moments that that I really got to have great moments at the games. But I wanted to share the negative experiences that I've had, or the shortcomings, or the failures, because it was really because of all of them why I made it to the Olympics. And not only the reason I made it to the Olympics, it was also the reason why I enjoyed being there so much, because I was truly in a place of like, I learned a lot. I'm so grateful to be here. I was so in the moment. And I think I was able to do that and have those experiences because of all of the what felt like setbacks at the time.
Yeah, and how, if at all, did that process impact what you wanted to do post-Olympics?
The one thing it did was that it made me, I think because of like missing out on on an Olympic team twice before, and I realized that like life goes on. Like I still had great friends. I still liked who I was. Nothing really changed. Um, and I realized that like, you know, all of my friends who had the chance to compete at the Olympics, they were still the same people. They still had the same fears and doubts and dreams. Um, and I realized that that wouldn't be something that changed everything. It wouldn't be something that like my whole self-worth would be about. Um, that would suck, right? Like it would suck if as an old person, I'm still like living in the moment of being 28. Like I would hope that I can do more things throughout my life and I don't make my whole life about 1 month in Korea. I mean, it sounds great. 1 month in Korea does sound great. But, you know, I was like, there's more than that. It's just an event. It's just one event. So I think being able to have the perspective of that, because it's the freaking Olympics, like it's the Olympics. And I think being able to kind of see it as it's just like one thing, it doesn't need to like, it doesn't make or break me. I think it helped me in everything else that I've been able to do since, because you know, there are goals and dreams I have for myself that are completely different and have nothing to do with sports now. Um, and I think that like, I'm not afraid to like dream big. I'm not afraid to like I'm not afraid or think that I need to set a limit for my goals. And the biggest thing that I take with me is like, I'm not afraid to fail, because failing is it's only a failure if you don't learn from it. If you learn from it, then it's a lesson. And so like reflect, you know, think about what you could do better and take that and bring it into the next thing you do. And you might fail again, but if you keep learning, it's nothing that set you back. You're just getting more tools and you're getting more knowledge to prepare yourself for something better.
That's actually the quote on my iPhone like lock screen. So definitely I agree with that.
I actually stole that from your
Okay.
lock screen.
Love
Yeah.
that. Yes. So for the sake of time, this is going to be my last question before we move on to audience questions. So I wanted to end by asking, given all the current endeavors and everything that we've talked about, what are you most excited for in the future?
In the future, what I'm most excited for is I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've been presented with, and I've taken advantage of them. And I hope to make people laugh for a really long time. It's like I've always been a performer. For a long time, it was on the ice. Now it's not on the ice. But I hope that I can continue to entertain, make people laugh, make people feel better. That's where I feel like I'm my best self. So I'm looking forward to more of those opportunities.
Great. So thank you so much for answering my questions. We're now going to move on to audience questions that we've collected throughout the course of this event. So if you have any further questions, definitely feel free to submit through the pinned comments. It's in there. So the first question we have is, you've recently gotten engaged. How, if at all, has your fiance been a source of support throughout your career?
So I actually met my fiance. We met in person after the Olympics, but we had met on Tinder. Yeah, I was swiping, don't hate. Um, we had met on Tinder a few months before the game. So he just kind of knew that I was like a skater. He didn't really know anything about it. And he only knew I was a skater because I was like, I'm a skater. And he was like, okay. So we, I would say that like in the years that have followed, he's been so supportive, because at times I have felt so lost and so out of my element and so confused, and sometimes felt like I just didn't have like a purpose, because skating, one of the things like that sports does is that it gives us this like a calendar that can go on forever. that you know exactly when every national championships is going to be, you know, when every Olympics is. It's so, you don't realize how lucky you are as an athlete to just know you always have something coming up. And, you know, in my life since, it's been like, you know, I've, you know, it's, you know, a job comes, you do it, and sometimes it's over. Sometimes it's a 2-week thing. Sometimes it's a longer contract. But it was a jarring transition. And my fiance, a shout out to my fiance. He was so incredibly supportive, and so helpful and such a rock. And I hope everybody has a person in their life like that who can be real with them, but also support them.
Amazing. I need a boyfriend. Just kidding.
If you might want to be Lucy's boyfriend, you can write a comment.
Yes, period. Love that. But someone actually asked in the audience, since you were recently engaged, do you have any tips for dating in the pandemic world, especially online dating?
My number one tip was that when I met my boyfriend on Tinder, so I was at a competition in Finland when I was swiping and we met. Obviously so focused at that competition if I was on Tinder. So we met and I was like, I'm never going to meet this guy. So, but we started chatting and he was really nice and whatever. And I was like, I'm not going to care at all about like putting on a show. And that was the best thing that I ever did, because I never was not myself, because I was like, I'm never going to meet this person. So what does it matter? So like, you know, sometimes we would send like video messages back and forth and I would look busted. And I was like, I'm just sending this. I do not care if he thinks, oh God, this guy is crazy. Cause I was like, whatever. But because I was so myself, it really like was so easy to connect. So I think when you're meeting people and you're talking online, just be yourself. You're setting yourself up. If you're yourself and you really connect with this person, you are setting yourself up to like really hopefully, you know, have something special. But when you're like try to put on a front or, you know, be like, that's really cool, even if you hate whatever that is, you know, you'll get to a point where like, you'll be like, that's not me. And also the best thing, now I'm like on a soapbox. I think the best thing is that like when I met my now future husband, I was like, I don't ever need to be with anyone at all. I'm totally good on my own forever. I don't care. I like myself. I like spending time with myself. I have great friends. I love my friends. And I still think that way. I don't need him. He's great, and he's supportive, but I want him in my life, but like he helps me. I like him. I like him. That's good. But he helps me, and I want to be better because I think, I want to impress him. And he adds a lot of value to my life, but he doesn't I wasn't like just a missing puzzle piece that found my thing. I was a full puzzle, and now I'm just like a full puzzle with like another puzzle.
Great. So talking about, being by yourself, you mentioned on the ice, like you're by yourself. It can feel like a lonely sport, but also you learn to be happy with yourself. So transitioning more into more like ice skating questions, who is your figure skater icon or inspiration?
I have a few. Obviously one of them is like Michelle Kwan, because growing up, she was just the queen, Kween queen. She was the best. She still is like one of the best of all time. And now as I've gotten older, I like have such an even greater respect for everything that she did and for how dominant she was for so long, because just like what that takes mentally is such wherewithal. I am so impressed by her. And then one of my other like favorite athletes in skating is Nathan Chen, because we skated together for a very long time. I skated with Nathan when he was a really young kid. And it's just really inspiring to see somebody really achieve such great things that like, you know, that they've worked so hard for, and you've seen the work, and I could see him like develop and really become this such incredible athlete. So I would say Nathan Chen and Michelle Kwan are like my two skating idols.
Awesome. So, what are the best and worst parts of the public spotlight from Manal?
I think one, I feel lucky because I think everybody knows that I'm like a hot mess and like kind of like in like white trash. So I think people feel like super like easy to send messages to me, and it's always so fun, and I can have really great conversations with so many people. So I think that's been one of the best parts. I think and I don't even think it's like one of the worst parts. But like there's the part that like I don't think anyone's ever prepared for, is that everything you do is like always being watched, you know, and it's not like I'm doing anything bad, but you know that whatever you're doing is like being watched and being analyzed. And it's just it's a thought process of like, when you go through that and when you do something of like, what will people think of this or whatever, it's just something that's you never think of before. And now it's this new layer of like, you know, what will the general opinion be of this or of that? And so it's neither good or bad. I think the biggest thing is that you know, I feel lucky because like I just, you know, I don't really get super caught up in it, and I just really focus on just enjoying myself and connecting with everyone.
Great. Our next question is, which book has had the biggest impact on your life?
Okay, the book. Okay, this is so like basic 101, but my favorite book that I still apply in my like everyday life is The Secret. Have you ever read The Secret?
No, I have not.
Basically, it's about the law of attraction, of that you need to put out into the universe what you want, and in it you get it back. And it's not a very long book. You can read it pretty quickly, probably in like a day. But it's like little things, and that's really when my you know, my mom was like, you should read this book, and I was like, okay. And I read it, and I was like, okay. At first I thought I was like, please work like magic. But you know, it's a process of like, when you it's really like what you like, the energy that you put out, you get back. And it's still like a process and something that like I apply to my everyday life.
I actually think Ariana Grande has a song called Just Like Magic. So it's great that you quoted that. So our
She's
next,
actually here. She's not here.
yeah, we wish she was. So our next question is from Manal. What advice would you tell your younger self?
Relax. I would just tell my younger self to just relax. And nobody cares. That's another one. I think like we sometimes so get caught up in like thinking like, what do other people think of us, that we don't really ask ourselves like, what do we want to do? Like what do we want to wear? We think about like, what will people think if I wear this or something? And truly, everyone is so caught up in their like own little world that they're not paying attention. So the biggest piece of advice was that like, relax. Everyone's focused on themselves. So the thing that you should do is you should focus on yourself and enjoy your own experience. That would be the biggest piece of advice.
Great. So our next audience question is, if you weren't an Olympian, what would your dream career be?
If I wasn't an Olympian, my dream career, it would be like in comedy and like writing. I would say that like, you know, writing the NBC show that I'm working on right now is like a dream job. I love it. I love being in the writer's room. I love like writing jokes. I love I love all of that. It's like, it's where I feel like my most powerful. So I'm doing my dream job, Lucy. And I'm in my dream stream right now with everyone here.
That's incredible. We're so excited to have you as well. And our next question is, how did you come up with Rippon variation?
So I was just trying to do something different because I'm so unique. But everybody was doing like well, not everybody, but some people were doing a jump with like one arm above their head. And I was like, well, no one's done two for like a triple. I've seen people do two for like a double. And I was like, I should just try it. So I worked on it for a bit and I thought it would be something just to kind of like set me apart. And at the time it did, but now, I mean, and now it's become a real, like a real trend, which has been really cool to see because, when I first did like the Rippon arm variation that they call it now, when I first did that, it was, I guess it was 12 years ago. And so now like 12, and I was the only one who did it. And it was like jaw on the ground. Now everyone's jaw is back in their mouth and everybody can do it. But and that's been really cool to see. I've loved seeing that.
Awesome. So our next question is, what do you think we as a society can do to further LGBTQ plus inclusivity and equal opportunities, both in and out of Olympic sports?
I think one thing that we can do is that I think if we're in a position to look to someone who might not have as much privilege as you or much access to like an audience as you, and reach out to them and see or think of other things that you can do to help like elevate them. And I think that's a big thing that like that we can all do in like any sort of like LGBTQ space, is that we can look around and see like, who do we feel like really needs attention? And if we feel like we have the resources to help, we should just take those opportunities. We shouldn't wait for people to ask for help. Like if you really see that like someone is struggling or you think that you can help someone, we should always take that opportunity to be able to do that. And I think in sports, there's been, I think what's been really inspiring is that I've seen a lot of like skaters, boys and girls. And I think we even have like some non-binary skaters on Team USA, which has been, I mean, I would have never thought that people would feel so comfortable to share their like identity and who they were 10 years ago. It was completely out of the question. Even like the Olympics for me were like almost 3 years ago. I guess they were 3 years ago. I was the first figure skater to be out and competing at the Olympics, and that was 3 years ago. So to think that like in the last 3 years, how much has changed, it's been really great. And I think sometimes, a lot of people ask like, why come out? I listen, I wish that we didn't have to come out either. But the thing is that if you feel comfortable to share your story, sometimes it just makes it feel okay for someone else to accept who they are, because they can see somebody accept who they are. And so I think like if we can share our stories, if we can reach out to people, we, take a look around and see what you can do for your community. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just be yourself. And sometimes there are opportunities where you can look around and you can lend a hand and lift someone up.
Awesome. So our next question is, can you name a time where you felt starstruck because you met your idol / favorite celebrity?
Okay. I usually don't get starstruck, but the one time where I was like, oh my God, was when I met Hillary Clinton. Like it wasn't anyone else. I don't know what it was. I think it's just like, I don't know. I met Hillary Clinton. I was like, this is Hillary Rodham Clinton. And I was starstruck. Nobody else has done that to me. Just HRC.
Not even Taylor Swift.
No, because Taylor, I don't know, like Taylor Swift was just so nice and so personable that like right away I just felt like I knew her. And so, it would just, if we were just talking about something, I was like, oh yeah, this is just my friend Taylor, even if she's, I can say that loosely. I'm a big Taylor Swift fan, but I'm, I don't think she's like, oh, Adam, my friend, but I love her. I'm a big, like, if I had to choose a child between Folklore and Evermore, my child would be Evermore, by the way.
Oh my gosh, great question to answer. Love that.
Yeah.
So our next question is, what's your favorite or funniest story you have from the Olympics?
Okay, my funniest story from the Olympics. I'm trying to think of like a funny story. I think, there was like some funny circumstances. Well, one, I mean, we're all adults here. The one thing was that, like I read so many articles of like there being condoms all over the place. And I was like, where are they? It's not like I needed them, but I like wanted to know, like, where are these things? Like it felt like everybody had talked about them. And so it wasn't until like the end of the games where I had to go to like you can get randomly drug tested while you're there. And I got randomly drug tested, and you need to go to the medical office. And in the medical office, I finally found them. But like in my mind, I just thought they were all over the place, and they're not, in case you were wondering.
Oh my goodness. I love hearing your experiences because I feel like I don't know, love them. So our last question for the sake of time, or audience question, is any word of advice for us older skaters giving support to our young competitors when we see them at the rink?
Lucy, can you ask that one more time?
I'm so sorry. Any
No,
word of advice for older skaters? Sorry. I also have to mention this is from Victoria. So any words of advice for us older skaters giving support to our young competitors when we see them at the rink?
I think, one, I think like while we're at the rink, we all should not take ourselves so seriously. That we're there because we want to be there. We love what we do. We want to push ourselves. We want to be the best that we can be. And I think that if you see a young skater kind of struggling with that, or if you see a young skater going through something that you can relate to, you can share your own experience with them and just let them know that like they can relax. They'll move on from this. Like it will be okay. And I think in a sport that is so individual, it is such a bonding moment. And I will say that like my skating friends are some of the best friends that I've ever had. And they're still like the best friends that I have in my entire life. The friends that I am really close with today, I've known them all for like 15 plus years. And it's because like they saw me at my highest highs and they saw me completely devastated at my lowest lows, and they stuck with me and they supported me. And it's because like, life is a roller coaster and sports is a roller coaster in front of everyone. And so, the skating like tie and bond is something that like will tie you forever. So like it's a really special thing. So if you see someone, struggling, just go over and share something, or just even say that it's okay, or, just be good.
Those are some good closing words because that's all we have. So thank you so much for answering all of our questions. I'd now like to welcome our president, Aparna Iyer, back for some closing remarks.
Thanks so much to Lucy and Adam. And can I get a huge virtual round of applause for our speaker and our moderator for the evening? That was incredible. Thank you so much, Adam, for taking the time to be here. We so appreciate it. And in fact, to show our appreciation, we have a small surprise for you. So at every Berkeley Forum event, our communications team puts together a custom poster for each speaker, and this one is no exception. So this was designed for you by Thanu Jain from our communications team.
Oh my God, it's so cute. She made me look really fit, which is really fantastic. I love it so much. You guys are so sweet.
Yeah, no, she made it off an image of you, so it's perfectly accurate. But yeah, so really quick before we close out, Adam, do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to make?
Sure. I'm so grateful to be able to be here today. I will say that everybody who helped put this together was so kind, very cute, very funny, very nice, very beautiful. I've had such a great time. Lucy, thank you so much. Everybody who submitted a question and who showed up tonight, thank you so much. I hope everybody's staying safe. And yeah, until we see each other in person, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. We really appreciate that, Adam. Thanks so much to you. And for our audience, the Berkeley Forum's lineup is still continuing after this. So on the 24th, next Wednesday, we'll be hosting Douglas Elmendorf, a professor at the Harvard Kennedy School. And then this event might potentially be postponed, but we will be hosting Sarah Bloom Raskin. So if you'd like more updates, just feel free to follow us on our Facebook page. And thanks so much for coming. If you have feedback on our events or would like to submit potential speakers, please feel free to go to this link at tinyurl.com/forumfeedbackspring21. Like I said before, feel free to like us on Facebook or visit us on our website to stay updated with everything that we're doing. And lastly, if it's within your means, please help support us. Any amount goes towards helping us put on more events. And so our Venmo is linked right there. Thank you once again for spending your evening at the Berkeley Forum, and we hope to see you at another event soon.